This week's Millennial Affirmations. I radiate confidence and positivity when picking up my DoorDash from my front step. I am not afraid of the return of layered camis and low-rise jeans. I am grateful for Gen Z wanting captions on movies just as much as I do. I am not going to disable my ad blocker, and nobody can make me. I am patient when Gen X tells me another water hose anecdote that sounds like child neglect.
Welcome to Once in a Generation, the podcast where being a millennial isn't just having a 19-year birth year. It's navigating a world where the AI running your phone's autocorrect still flags the word AI as a typo.
We're your hosts. I'm Chase, he, him.
Liv, she, her.
And Katie, she, her.
Each episode, we unpack the mess that is our generation, trying to answer the question, was it really ever supposed to work out for us?
Because being part of the most resilient generation means knowing you should always text before calling. It's just polite.
This is Once in a Generation. Let's unpack the damage. This week, we're dialing in on communication, exploring how it shifted from the slightly more analog days of Gen X to the hyper-digital world of Gen Z.
We are thrilled to be joined by a truly unique guest, a personal role model for me, Rachel Ann Williams. Rachel is a leading HR and culture strategist who's worked with a number of top Silicon Valley companies. She also currently is a lecturer at UC Berkeley, focusing on meaningful career development for the newest generation of emerging professionals. Rachel, thanks so much for joining us.
Super stoked to be here. Do they still say stoked? Stoked was like 1994.
We're going to save my rant about linguistic drift later on, but you can use any word you want.
Thanks, Mom.
I'm so shocked we're not getting it immediately. It's like, okay, we're opening up this big, thick book, and she's laying it on the table.
I am saving the linguistic drift conversation as a sweet treat for myself at the end. That is my sweet treat.
Speaking of linguistic drift, as the baby here, and by baby I mean I'm 34. We want to talk. I think let's start off talking about the technology we have the most in common, which is landlines. So I had a landline like my whole childhood. I don't remember a long time with like a corded phone. I feel like at least my family got like a cordless phone fairly early, even if you couldn't really walk very far with it. Like it wasn't that good. And also everyone had ADHD, had like very unmedicated, untreated ADHD. So the batteries were always dead. So we missed so many calls. But there's so much phone lore before that. Like I launched into cell phones fairly early on. I'd love to hear what were your landlines like? Did you have like the big long cords that I always see in movies that everyone had like just before me?
Well, as the Gen Xer here, yes. Cell phones came along after I graduated college. So, or maybe a little bit during college, but I mean, who could afford one? And they were bricks. Wish I had one to show y'all. I don't know if you just check out an old episode of Miami Vice with Don Johnson and like the brick phone. Yeah. So landlines were a major part of my growing up. And we had the ones where you had to dial. So you had to wait until the 9 returned all the way back to its spot. So it took at least 30 seconds to dial and call another phone. I mean, this is insane now, right? Like time is just slipping away.
Rotary phone. That's awesome.
And I had a lot of 9s in my childhood landline phone number. So people hate calling me. It was like 5999. It's like, oh my God, calling Rachel is such a hassle. We're just gonna leave her out of the chat. We're not gonna call her.
Do you think it actually affected your social life? I'm curious if you think it had an impact.
You know, one can never know. That is one of those questions I will never know. But it makes you wonder, like how many parties I didn't get invited to, or outings to the mall or something like that, which also in my day, big place to hang out.
There might be something to that because I know people who ended up with nicknames or different names because their names were really hard to text, like to refer to them when you had to like put everything in the number pad. And so their names got like shortened or changed or whatever. Like what people called them was different based on how annoying it was to type it all out.
So I was just gonna say the cord thing is real. We had a 30-foot cord that went from our kitchen that made it all the way to past our living room to our stairs. House was kind of tiny. It was a very intimate home growing up. So yeah, my sister could sit on the stairs from the cord in the kitchen and be on the
My
phone.
issue that I always ran into is every time I was on a phone call, my mom would pick up the same line
Yeah.
and I'd be like, "Mom, get off the phone. I'm using it."
Oh, well, I would have got smacked for that kind of language. Because, my mom definitely loved picking up the phone when I was on or any of us children were on the phone to give us directives, to embarrass us
Yeah.
purposely. Like it was her special thing.
My uncle figured out that he could call the operator and tell him or her that it was an emergency, and they would break through the call.
Oh,
He
yeah.
would do that
Oh
Whoa.
for
my God, broke off.
everything.
Absolutely. But then they started charging for that, so I used to get in trouble. But yeah, I mean, when you can break a call, sometimes my mom would be like, "Call your grandma." I'm like, "Ooh, the line's busy." She'd be like, "Call the operator." I mean, it's just a thing. And the operator would break the call.
My God, do they still have those? I assume not. I assume
Have you
operators are no longer.
I've been thinking about that since we were gonna bring this topic up, and I was like, okay, so everyone's concerned about AI taking over jobs. Where are the telephone operators? The ones who used to do this, that, right? They found something else to do, I would imagine.
I don't think people know what that means when you go boop boop, just like the way that they say now. I saw a TikTok where they had like a millennial and an alpha or a millennial and like a younger generation, and they
Mhm.
said, mime picking up the phone, and all the millennials do this, and all the younger generations do this now. And it blows my mind.
But this is also a generational hobby horse because I feel like my parents got harangued by their parents about how their telephones were different too. And so I
Oh,
feel like
for sure.
each generation has their own like tech journey. And obviously we've gone through a lot of tech wildness now, but we
Yeah.
also inherit whatever our parents' baggage is
Mhm.
about like, you don't know how good you had it. You used to walk down the street to call the phone.
So my mom is a silent generation, so before boomer. She was telling me because I was complaining about her ability to use a mobile phone now. Like I'm like, you really got to get it together. And she's just like, look, let me tell you where I came from. Our whole block shared one phone. Oh
Whoa.
gosh, she was like, she lived in a rural town in Louisiana, 1940s, 1950s, and she's like, individual houses having phones? Crazy. One place for one phone for a whole street. I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, you would literally like they would yell the phones for you and like people would wait because have to wait for you to leave your house and I was like I was like, "Okay, I am going to have sympathy now. I'm not gonna yell at you anymore about, your texting habits or how you don't know how to pick up the phone properly." She only knows how to pick up the phone, by the way, on speaker.
The thing that I want to talk about is, at what point did we stop having ringtones? You know what I mean? We
Mm.
You
all had
say
perks.
that, but everyone in my life has a ringtone, including my millennial boyfriend. So like
Wow.
they exist.
I don't.
It drives me crazy.
Wait,
My
Let me
phone
wait.
tell
is
you.
always on
My
vibrate
phone has been
silent.
on silent since
Silent,
2009.
100% of the time. Wait, what do you mean ringtone? Like the ones they bought? Like, like,
Mhm.
Yes. My
wow.
stepfather's is the F1 theme song, and it drives me crazy. So much anxiety. So much anxiety.
I've never had a ringtone I liked. Like, the moment that vibrate or silent became an option, that became the only thing I did.
I also find loud noises jarring. Like a siren goes down the
Mhm.
road and I'm elevated and I'm overstimulated.
Yeah.
I hate phone noises. I'm the person who got like the minute they started making alarm clocks that didn't make sounds but just turned the lights on, I switched
Mhm.
over to that because that is a
Mhm.
much less stressful way to wake up. So I very much am here for everyone who gets overstimulated and
Yeah.
doesn't want the ringtones. And also I did have a Spice Girls ringtone at one point.
So imagine back in my day with the cord phone that there was no way to turn the phone down. There was no way to stop it from ringing in the middle of the night if someone decided to call you then. But we also had rules about calling, which is a whole nother thing, I
You
think.
don't call after
Mhm.
9 or before 9. Like, that's
Right.
there's 12 hours that there are no phone calls unless it's an emergency.
Yeah, you do not call after 9. Also, the panic of calling anybody's home and you didn't know who was going to answer, the sister, the brother, the dad, the mother, like you had to be ready. Like all
Mhm.
of that caused high anxiety.
I don't know how much this is in the rest of the country, but did anyone else have incredibly gendered rules around who was and was not allowed to call the house? Because everyone I know did,
Oh,
and there was like
interesting.
this whole etiquette system that you sort of
Yeah.
like had to know.
I not so much who was and wasn't allowed to call the house, but it was no big deal if a woman called the house and asked for me. But if a man or a boy called the house and asked for me, it was a, ooh, Katie's go. I was 6 years old. Come on, guys. I don't have a boyfriend.
Oh boy.
So talk to me about payphones.
Oh.
I was definitely like the I was a teenager in like the second Bush administration. They had started pulling payphones out. So I am curious for does anybody here have any stories of relying on them? Like what that was like? Did you just keep quarters around in your pockets at all
Yeah.
times?
Well, it was dimes in my day.
Dimes.
Well,
The price is
Inflation.
raised.
Thanks, Obama.
it was dimes, and I always had a dime in my backpack.
When I was in high school, my parents refused to get me a cell phone, and so I kept calling them collect from the payphone.
Oh,
And they worked for the
God.
government, and so they were like, "We can't do this." Like, they would give me quarters, and I was like, "I'm gonna get that fucking cell phone. Just you wait."
I wasn't allowed to have a cell phone.
That's practical.
My parents broke when I started driving. They're like, we need you to be able to call if you get into an accident.
yeah,
So
yeah.
16 and a half when I started driving on my own and wasn't doing like the driver's ed stuff. They were like, and now here's your first it was still the like Nokia brick phone
Mhm.
at that
Now the
point.
big,
Yeah.
big ones, you're like this. You're like, hello.
Yeah, it was a little bit thinner by that point, but we like this was
Oh,
pre-Razor. The Razor came out like
oh,
3 years later.
yeah.
So it was still like but up until that point, it was always quarters. You always had to have like a little change purse of quarters because you didn't know if you were gonna be at the mall or school or wherever. I also use that a lot for like hot fries and soda, but
Yeah.
Obviously.
Boy.
So how old were you, Rachel, when you got your first cell phone?
Ooh.
And did you have a pager
I was
before
gonna
that?
say, when I turned 16 and started driving, it was a pager. Although, does that a pager when you're driving? If I get into an accident, it can't dial out. But anyway, let's see. First cell phone, I want to say it might have been like senior year at Berkeley. So there's that 97 was my
Liv
first.
was just born.
Liv was just born.
Yeah, that was me. Just born.
It was toddler.
so did you have like the big thick ones that look
I
like little
had
school car
I had the big
phones?
thick ones that you had to charge with this really insane charger in the car, so that it was a car phone really, but people carried them around, and they gave you a purse to carry it around in. That's how thick it was. It was thick.
It's the
Yes.
Zach Morris phone with the
Yeah,
antenna that
exactly. It was like
yes.
an antenna. You had to pull the antenna, but otherwise, it wasn't going anywhere. And it was GTE, so the company I don't think is even around anymore. I think
Mhm.
AT&T bought GTE, but GTE was selling these things at like, I think I got mine from at Safeway. Like there was somebody with
Whoa.
like they were like tabling at Safeway, and they were like, "Hey, do you want a mobile or cellular phone?" And I was like, "Yeah, sign me up." Like no idea, and none of my other friends had it. So then I had to convince my other friends, because I'm like, "Well, what's the point in having a phone you can carry around with you if everyone you're going to call is one with you and doesn't have one, or they're at home, like it just wasn't working out." So then I brought three of my sorority sisters back to that same Safeway. They got phones. So then we're all on campus, just at Berkeley, like on the main hub, the rotunda, sitting out with our mobile phones like this. Like
You
anyway,
were like the original stock photo of like women tackling the world.
but
Yeah.
yeah, man, we definitely kind of set the culture there with that one. And bills, we all of us ended up turning them in because the bills were ridiculously insane on a college.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, I don't know if it was the same way for you, but I remember like free nights and weekends,
Oh,
and like there were certain times you could call that cost less money.
absolutely. I mean, it was okay to tell somebody you are eating up my minutes. Hang
Yes.
up,
Yeah.
call me after 9. Call me after 9, but then I'm usually asleep by 9, so that didn't work out well for me either. Yeah, the phone, it was a bust in the early days.
Were you a BlackBerry person?
Oh, story about a BlackBerry. So this was
Her
pre
emails.
2007, and I am the corporate recruiter at Pete's Coffee and Tea. Hopefully, y'all Pete's Coffee and Tea
Mhm.
fans.
Mhm.
I know Starbucks, but
I have an ornament on my Christmas tree for Pete's.
great,
Wow.
Absolutely.
excellent. It's Berkeley, California, homegrown. Very passionate about our Pete's Coffee out here in the Bay Area. Anyway, I'm working for them as a corporate recruiter, and they gave me a BlackBerry, and I was like, what do I need this for? But I think that was the moment I realized that like communication has changed, boundaries have changed. Like clearly my boss wanted to keep track of me and wanted me to stay on top of things when I was outside of the office. And I was like, this is no bueno. Like, I don't like this. So I lost it effective immediately. I told her, I was like, I don't know where it went. I'm so sorry. And whatever. I never used it. I always made up some excuse, but I was not like going to be receiving phone calls after I left that office or checking anything on my personal time. I just refused. But
I
Good for
love
that was
those boundaries. I
yeah,
would
that
not
was
have had that courage.
yeah.
It's so
We didn't have
interesting.
that courage.
No, we
No, we
never.
didn't.
that.
We know this for sure. We did not have that courage.
No.
And reader, we were stressed.
I feel like BlackBerry is the biggest fumble, like one of the biggest fumbles in like corporate history. Like, I don't know, like first to market, and you've got a name that people are like using as a verb, an adverb, and a noun. Like, your brand is like sticking, BlackBerry this, BlackBerry, it's in rap songs, it's in all kinds of things, and then you just lose it. Like,
Yeah.
you lose.
It's funny, I have the same rant about Skype. People still use
Oh,
to Skype as a verb, but Skype does not have the market share, and they really missed the pandemic opportunity.
oh my God, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, it was the fruit wars. I mean, Apple won out against BlackBerry.
That's such a good way of putting it. I never
I
thought
feel
about
like
it
someone
that way.
has a book titled that. They have to.
They
Yeah.
have to.
The Fruit Wars.
The
Well,
Fruit Wars.
there's a movie, BlackBerry movie, that I would suggest everybody watch. It's highly
Oh.
entertaining, about how that all happened, them losing out to Apple and like not seeing the future of telecommunications. Anyway, really good, but what a fumble. Oof,
What
Yeah.
a fumble.
Mm-mm-mm.
What do you think are some old school communication habits that you guys have all kept up with or like continued?
Writing thank you notes, like sending actual mail, like I keep that up.
Whoa,
Snail mail.
cool.
I have a postcard and I used to work at stationery stores too as my college job.
That is the
but
least surprising thing
That's
I've
the
ever
least
heard.
surprising
I
part.
worked at 2.
Oh,
Did you get fired from one and then for stealing all the stationery, you had to go to another? Like, are you still
well,
on the run?
I did get fired from one, but it was because it was the 2008 financial crisis.
oh,
It
You
was
were
a layoff.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You were working at a stationery store and then you got laid off because of the financial crisis.
Yes, because no one was buying gold
buying
engraved wedding
paper?
invitations anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not even
The
kidding
most
you.
millennial
The
story I've ever heard in
stationery
my life.
store made major bucks on thousands of dollars of wedding invitation orders, and those went out the door during the financial crisis. And after that, it turned into the Evite land.
yeah.
And so then the second stationery store I worked at, which is a major retailer that I will not name on air, but I'm sure everyone would recognize the bougie stationery store brand. They make all of their money off of people who have forgotten to buy birthday gifts at the last minute or like
Oh,
anniversary
yeah.
gifts.
Oh yeah.
And so they're like, sure, I'll buy these like wine flavored gummies. Why not? Anyway, that was a ramble.
so
But the
good.
point being, I love snail mail. And when we were worried about the post office during the pandemic, I bought so many stamps. I still have stamps
remember
from
that.
Me too.
2020.
I still have stamps. Yeah. Same.
My God.
I've
Although
lost
I-
all the stamps I bought. I don't know where they are.
You lose a lot of things you buy.
I do.
They're somewhere.
I have a medical I have a medical ADHD diagnosis. Like there is the number of things I lose. It's a tax actually, which is actually really funny because I've never lost a cell phone ever. And I know, Rachel, we've established you fake lost a cell phone. But yeah, and I'm realizing I'm not applying this to landlines because I'm sure that they could be lost or broken or whatever. But I'd love to hear like what is your most dramatic? What phone was it? Like what
No.
did you lose? Did you break? Like what was this like really dramatic story? I'm sure everyone has one.
Yeah, mine is I was in college and it was a flip phone and it took pictures, but they were like so low res, like it was like negative megapixels. But I remember the girl I was dating in college. We sent sexy pics back and forth. Like again, like barely could see it
Early
because the cameras
adopter.
were
Yeah.
terrible.
Amount
But
of megapixels.
I left it on the bus back, and
Yeah.
I was devastated. One, because then I couldn't see the pictures, but there weren't passcodes on phones, so
No.
anyone could have opened that phone and
Oh,
seen
those
my
phones are
2
somewhere.
megapixel naked girlfriends.
They're on the
Did you
dark web.
tell her?
Oh, I had to.
Okay.
Well, I had to tell her, but also she was like trying to call me, and the phone was gone.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good story.
What
Yeah.
about you, Rachel?
I don't know. I keep up with my things. I haven't really lost.
She's a
Looks like,
responsible
I
adult.
was
She's
gonna
not a
say,
millennial.
Well,
that
my
sounds so
communication.
responsible.
Sorry,
I
boring.
I never had like a real traumatic phone situation, but I do remember, we don't need to go into details. I had a fight with my younger brother one day, and it was right after I'd gotten one of my first cell phones, and I was like seeing red, which never happened. It's like I can count on one hand the number of times that's happened in my life. And I threw the phone at the wall because I thought it felt like a brick. I figured it would hold together. It did not hold together.
I threw my Nokia brick on my bed. It bounced off the bed, through the window, down 2 stories. The window was broken, but the phone was fine.
I still hold on to my Nokia stock. I keep hoping one day. I'm hoping for a redemption arc.
Do they still make anything?
Yeah, what
Yes.
are you making?
Yeah,
What?
dude.
Yes, they
I
do.
gotta
What are you
look at
making?
this.
Yes, they do.
Well,
Less like cell
mean.
phones and stuff like that. They're
well,
doing
that's true.
more
There are other countries
telecom.
besides the US, other markets. So
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa. I need one of these. Because people are doing this, like, de-smartifying their smartphones now because we're all too addicted.
absolutely.
Maybe
Yeah.
I should just get a Nokia brick again.
Yeah.
Not.
I still have one of my flip Nokia bricks that
No,
I'm like,
this is
can I get
Chase.
it back?
You gotta get the language back too. Yo, this is Chase.
Yeah, right? Leave a message. I'm not here.
Oh well, we gotta record the outgoing message from a song
Yes.
Yeah.
that's playing on the radio. That's real old school. You guys don't know
Yeah.
anything about that.
100%.
So many mixtapes of just holding the
many mixtapes.
speaker up to the radio and listen, like, yeah.
So many mixtapes.
Yeah. Did you do that, Liv? Did you leave a fun voicemail?
There's no
Not
idea what we're talking about.
really. I
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of friends. Like it really wasn't like a big. I really wasn't heavily into and the ones that I did go meet up with, it was never. There's never any trace of that communication. Like we were careful. Like we were going out to like an abandoned silver mine to go drink some moonshine somebody stole. There was no trace of that anywhere. Like no one knew we were gone. And
There was
one knew
no
we came
digital
back.
footprint for a
Now
reason.
see, and
There was no
those
digital, physical, ephemeral, spiritual footprint of any of it.
those were the good old days. That's what the
Mhm.
kids just don't have no clue about.
Yeah.
This is one of the things I wanted to get onto. Thank you for saying that, Rachel. You gave me a great segue, which is you are teaching now. And so you are actually seeing how Gen Z kids are in the classroom, right? Like they're not just
Mhm.
like little ones now. They're
Ugh.
proto adults.
Yeah.
They're
And
actual adults.
I'm
right.
not
And
an
so you're
adult.
seeing how they're learning, how they're communicating with each other and with
Yeah.
you. And I just like, we're talking about a lot of different things here, but like, what is that like?
Yeah. Well, I probably should have did some research or reading up on my audience before I just hauled ass into the classroom. But it was like the third week, and I was lecturing, and I'm walking around. I use my hands and I walk around and all this stuff. But I didn't see anybody taking any notes. And I was like, I am dropping some straight gems. Why isn't anybody taking any notes? Pat myself on the back there, and they all like held up a device or something of like something, phone or whatever. And I was like, no, like we're recording. And the panic that came over me, because back to what Liv's point was, I didn't grow up having any footprint of what I was doing or what I was saying at any given moment. Thank God, thank the Lordy. But now I've got all these students in here recording everything I say. And you guys have worked with me before, right? Like, I don't keep it all the way PG, if you will. And so I was like, oh my God. Like, I just stood there for a moment. And then I just was like, well, what do y'all do with it afterwards? And they were like, oh, a lot of the students are international students. So most universities, almost 40% of their student population is international. And so they were like, well, you talk fast. So, this translates into English for me. And it's like, it's easier. And I was like, what else? What do you, native English speakers doing with it. And they're like, well, we can multitask. So then I started really walking around, like digging in and seeing like, okay, what's on their screens? Because I see screens, some screens are up. They are multitasking. So they think they're multitasking, but we know
Yeah,
the
they
science
think they
says no.
are.
Yeah,
Parallel
no
processing.
parallel
Yes.
Listen, some of
processing.
us can do it. Some of us can do
None of
it.
us can do it. And they don't believe me. I'm like, so y'all are basically, you showed up because showing up is about 30 to 40% of the grade. You got to show up, got to participate. That's how I've, set up the class or the course. So you're showing up, check, but not really here and engaged and doing other things, but you're also recording. So on the one hand, I'm a little annoyed, like, okay. But then on the other hand, I'm kind of like, this is brilliant. Secretly, it's a little brilliant. Like they're gaming the system. They're like, okay, 30% of my grade is showing up. I can show up. I got other stuff to do for this other class. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to record Rachel and listen to her class a little bit later. I mean, it opens up some options that I, frankly, in 1993 did not have at my fingertips.
Listen, I'm at the age where I can't even multitask in the car. If I'm looking at directions, I have to turn the volume down because it's too loud to hear the
That
directions.
is a real thing.
It's a
No,
real thing.
listen, my favorite thing to do to them now is just to call on them. And I
Yeah.
do it.
Yes.
But of course, some of the feedback was that I call on them and that embarrasses them. And I was like, well, I don't care.
How
Yeah.
dare you? How
You know?
dare you ask them to
I'm
participate?
I'm privileged enough that because we called on the landline, you wouldn't always get the person you were calling. So I learned how to talk to adults. Like I learned how to have basic etiquette when someone is, and I feel like that is lost. Like the fear that comes over Gen Z when they get a phone call
Mhm.
is wild.
And
Mhm.
this is something I feel like y'all have heard me talk about a little bit about this before, but so I used to work in academia and I decided not to go the route that Rachel you're currently on. Teaching's a passion of mine. And I remember being really frustrated that I would have students that seemed like they weren't paying attention, but they would have at that point they were recording on their laptops still. They weren't using their phones and there was no AI yet 'cause it was like 2010. And I would get so upset about it because I thought that like you weren't paying attention, you weren't processing. Because I know for myself, Hermione Granger, me, I remembered because I wrote it out.
Same.
So if I didn't write down the note, I wasn't going to have good recall later. And I
Yeah.
would study for the test, but I never had to study as hard because I remembered so
'Cause
much
you-
from writing it down.
Exactly.
But on the flip side, I now talk with friends who are still in academia and they talk about their students and they're like, there are students with dyslexia or like other accommodation needs where it's so much easier for them to do it without being singled out in the classroom because they can do this and it's more democratized too, like no one feels left
For
out just
sure.
because they got distracted. So I feel so conflicted about it all the time.
Same. Same.
You know,
I do too. Yeah.
as someone who is about 7 learning disabilities in a trench coat, I had such an interesting time in college because I feel like the 2008/9 to 2012/2013 cohort I was in had such a different relationship with technology from the beginning to the end. And something that really unlocked for me that I learned in my first early classes is I actually retain information better when I am listening to something and doing something totally different. I don't know if this is a
Yeah.
function of ADHD, but I do know it drove my professors crazy because they would call on me and I would always give the exact answer, even though I had been looking like I was zoning out reading
Right.
Wikipedia, because that was my face, but I'm still, listening to the conversation. I'm able to read at the same time. There are simultaneously more people who are capable of learning really, really differently than you think, and also way more people who think they are capable of learning differently than there actually are.
That
Um,
part.
Yes, and it's kind of, both on the student and the institution to figure out like, okay, what's going on. But I do remember in my initial classes, there was not a lot of kind of teachers circling the back of the room to check for monitors. A lot of us had laptops, but no one was really doing that yet in those like freshman intros. And by the time I was like a junior and senior, every professor was either you had like the cool guy who was not going to check and did not care. Like as long as you were like in the seat, they only legally had to give you like an attendance. They really only cared about the work product. Or you had the kind of teacher that was going to take it so unbelievably personally if they saw a single tab on your laptop that they thought might not be related to the class, that they would then like dock points and then you have to argue your case. Like I'm 7
Mm.
articles down off of something you said and they'd be like, "Cool, hit the back button." And you'd have to hit back to show them like, "Here's how I got here." Like I just went forward past what you were talking about. I can't even imagine today, particularly with especially AI enabling work product. I feel like I got out right before Turnitin. I never got to experience Turnitin, which
I got to be an
sounds
administrator on Turnitin.
Ooh.
I got to watch my brother and then some of my friends, like, younger siblings do Turnitin, and I reach for AI over Turnitin. Like, you're telling me I submitted, a paper of mine as a test one time, that I still had on hand, and it said it was 89%, like, not written by me. I was like, "I did this in 2 hours right before it was due." Thinking of that balance, Rachel, of, they're multitasking, they're using all of these tools to make things more efficient. What do you think how much of that is pressure of there's a tremendous particularly at the kind of institution where you teach, there's a tremendous amount of pressure to perform while also upholding the way that the academic vibes are supposed to be, but
Yeah.
then also, is it taking a slightly easier, like, way out? Like, how do you kind of see
Mm.
those things mixing?
Yeah, such a good question. I mean, one, every university is trying to understand AI, how it can be effectively incorporated into the classroom. Like it is an ongoing thing. And as soon as there's a conversation about it, something new with AI comes out and so we're kind of tracing our tails a little bit. And I don't think any university has actually figured it out on the whole AI front and work product and this. I I don't believe human beings have evolved as quickly as a technology. And so while I know technology has helped, kind of level the playing field and definitely make spaces more inclusive and create more opportunities for folks who learn differently and all of that. Like you said, I think the students who do learn by engaging and talking and taking notes, they're skipping by that. They don't know that's how they learn best. They're missing out. So I do think, like if I were to envision a career development or career services department, I think that is what universities probably need to focus on more,
Mhm.
like telling students how and helping them figure out how they learn best as they go through the next 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, some of them 12 years, because I think all of them are just defaulting to the technology. And so I can tell when we are having discussion because I think that's where you actually do learn, or at least you learn a lot of other skills, not only about yourself, but about listening to others' opinions, taking in opinions that don't, match with your own. Like there's much more to classroom discussion than just the topic that we're discussing. And a lot of them just they don't know how to participate and they didn't read it and AI did their homework. And so when I challenge them about their miss. And the problem with that, because I'm preparing them to apply for jobs, I know everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and content creator and all these things, which is great. But at some point in your life, you are bound to find yourself working for somebody else. I mean, unless you're independently wealthy out from the gate, but most of us aren't. So you need to know how to talk about yourself, who you are, this and that, and whatever. And AI isn't there yet. For right now, you actually do need to know how to communicate in a way that is authentic and honest and true to who you are. And that comes through trial and error, that comes through practice, that comes through high anxiety situations, like the classroom or calling a friend on a landline and not knowing if a parent is gonna answer. So I don't know. I worry.
Yeah.
I'm happy for them in some ways, and then I worry for them in other ways.
I worry about the resilience. Like, that's when I heard some of my former colleagues talking about how their students request the subtitles on an American English film because they're so used to seeing captions on social media that they can't focus on the film for their film studies class. Like that. For a classroom where we're trying to foster engagement and discussion, I can understand accommodating that, but you're not always going to get accommodations in the real world. And that's sad. But also, you're going to be working with them, like different demographics and different generations who are not going to understand why you need that. And so you need that kind of resilience to deal with it.
I was gonna say it's so interesting to me because I feel like people had these conversations about us about how like millennials and Xers are so
So soft and
snowflakey and
snowflake.
they
We
don't have
did have the same conversation
resilience.
about y'all.
As hard as it was to be a millennial, and I assume we share, as Katie and I are older millennials and Liv also being millennial, like people looked at us fragile and we've been through a lot of hard times. But I'm so fucking thankful because I know how to talk and have eye contact with
Yeah.
someone.
I don't think it's just younger demographics because Rachel, you said something really interesting, which is unless you were independently wealthy, you were going to have to work for someone. And a lot of that requires diplomacy, high anxiety, the ability to communicate with. And all of us, I think, at one point or another have either worked for or worked with individuals who did have that level of wealth and did not ever have to work for someone else. I remember very vividly a past boss multiple jobs ago that at least two of the other people on this call remember. They told me very proudly that they had never worked for anyone in their lives, including when they like just started out at 18. Like that means that you didn't learn certain things about how to
Mm-hmm.
talk to other people. And now we see people who have I'm gonna go on my same rant as usual, but the CEO brainworms is what I call it, like the powered, privileged individuals who are frequently
Mhm.
male, but not always male, who have no idea how to relate to other
Mostly
human
male.
beings, right? But I think one of the many contributing factors, and I have a whole laundry list, is that they were never put into these situations where they had to accommodate other people and to
Yeah.
navigate that anxiety and that power dynamic because they always were in the driver's seat.
So
Yeah.
I had a really bad professor once in high school who mispronounced the word Romanesque as Romanesque and then told me I was wrong by correcting him. And I've never gotten over that. But he did teach me this one quote, which I love to bring up in situations like this as millennials get older, which I'm just going to read verbatim. Young people have exalted notions because they have not been humbled by life or learned its necessary limitations. Moreover, their hopeful disposition makes them think themselves equal to great things. So that's Aristotle. So it was at least going on back then. And it is true. Like we hear coming out of Gen X and millennials, a lot of the things that we heard said about us. But it is also proven in every way, shape, or form that Gen Z is in a worse starting position than we were by far. We did a great spot. Like we, are on either side of the financial crisis in college.
Yeah.
And there's been a fair amount of research, especially around how all Gen Z wants to be an entrepreneur, that a lot of that's just about opting out
Yeah.
of saying, I don't think that job's ever going to be there for me. I don't think that job is ever going to exist. So why would I learn the skill that you want me to learn, this
Yeah.
communication skill that you're telling me is necessary?
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the playing field and saying, hey, I don't think that's going to exist in 6 months, a year, who knows? Everything blew up 5 years ago. Who says it's not going to do that again tomorrow? So who says this is actually something necessary? Teacher, someone who wants me to do this. We know it's necessary for life, that it's that kind of a skill. Like we as slightly older adults know now. But I wonder how much of this big shift in communication we're seeing is just a total devolution of the social contract.
Um, uh,
We already knew as millennials what was promised to us, and they've seen us not get it. So they know they're probably, unless they're very fortunate and very lucky, not going to get it either. So I'm curious how you guys think that changes communication styles and how you might think about the way that Gen Z communicates versus what we do.
I'm no plus one, Liv, and say specifically, Rachel, I'd love to know your opinion because I feel like Chase, Liv, and I talk about this sort of stuff frequently, and I am very curious about your addition to the conversation.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, Liv. I mean, yeah, I think your summation of what Gen Z and probably Gen Alpha feel about the future is like spot on. The challenge, though, if you look through history, is that things don't change as quickly as you think, right? It takes generations, takes years. Um, Not wrong on the front that folks are trying to do away with humans. I don't know if anyone saw that Peter Thiel being questioned about, like, if we get rid of humans, like, is that your goal? And he was like, So there is an existential threat that is very real of other human beings trying to get rid of human beings and replace them with robots or something else, or I don't. But what I can say as someone who has worked in what they call deep tech here in Silicon Valley, um, those the bros are far away from that actually happening. What would be useful to them is to have everybody in a panic about it now, though. And I think it's a useful tool to have all the articles written about AI replacing you and whatever. So I guess my answer or call to action for Gen Z and Gen Alpha is um, don't give up on humans. Don't give up on being human. Don't give up on learning what makes humans human. Like don't give up on leaning in on those things. Um, because we are a while away from robots being ready. You know why we're a while away from the robots being ready? It's because they're being built by humans. And we can see how humans, we're a little all over the place. We're a little fickle. We don't know it all. We mess up and then have to start over. And so because humans be humaning, the robots aren't ready. So learn the skills that, yes, may not be specifically for working to get you a job to work for someone else, but you'll need those skills to sell something to someone else. But there is a faction of people I know that believe that this is what you said, live it like a kind of a new social contract. But I'll take it a step further, a new social order that we're eventually gonna do away with capitalism, and so you won't need to sell anything
Fingers
to
crossed.
anybody. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't I'm all for change, and this is just like every company, right? Every company, like, there's a new product or I wanna change something. Okay, but what's the replacement? And people usually leaders you rarely pull that string all the way through. They just talk about the change and what they want to have happen and what they want to see go, and it's like, "Well, what are you gonna replace it with?"
Mhm.
Okay, so
Right.
I would love to I'm hoping people start talking about, like, if you wanna do away with capitalism and you wanna do away with humans, and you wanna do away with consumers, okay, so then what's the new plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, fully automated space luxury can either go Star Trek or Dune. Like, we could end up in a feudal society, like a class system, too.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're naming our companies after the things in these books and not learning the lessons from them. But that's a
It's
different conversation.
A whole
It's
that is a
wild.
oh my god.
that's another podcast,
It's another that's for the Patreon. It's just 45 minutes of me yelling about Andoril. Just and I think I might be able to do it in Elvish. Like I think I might be able to do that.
I think it's very inclusive and you should do that.
Thank you very much. I'll make sure to include both the Sindarin and Quinions because I can do a little bit of Rohirrim, but like not very much. Tolkien did not complete that part of the dictionary.
Oh my
It's
god.
really interesting talking to someone from Gen X because we talk about all the time how we've been through so many unprecedented events. And Gen X,
Awesome.
you talk about like the silent generation, your mom, but
Mhm.
like I feel like people just jumped over you guys and started.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, they talk shit about millennials. They love to fucking do that in avocado toast. But like
Yeah.
growing up as Gen X, what was it like being skipped over?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on TikTok. I mean, surprise, kill surprise. I'm on TikTok and Gen X never gets talked about. And I have thought about this and my friends, we think it's because we can fight. Like, we're the last generation that physically didn't mind engaging with our full bodies and chests on the bus, wherever you are. You were talking shit. It was going to be handled right then and there. Like, none of this Twitter fingers, none of this, anonymous posts or whatever people are doing these days. No, we knew you where you went to school. We were coming up there, or we knew which class you were in. We were going to wait after class and we were going to handle it. So we just feel like, I don't know, the Gen X is kind of violent, and so people just leave us alone. That's what we think. Lead in the gas, we were drinking out of random, water hoses.
It's always the water hose. Why
It's
is it
water.
Rachel, answer this to me. Why is it always the water within a second of asking Gen X anything? It's the water hose. I drink out of a water hose. I don't feel like it changed me that much.
But random ones, just anywhere, just like,
Yeah.
okay,
Wait, random ones?
Yeah,
yeah.
you're thirsty. You're outside. You got to get some water.
First of all, we were outside 12 hours a day,
That's right. This is
nobody
the
knowing
difference.
where we were. Half the time, we didn't know
Yeah.
where we were. On bikes, with a bunch of other kids, 8 to 10 of us on bikes, and you didn't have money to go get some bottled water. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if bottled water was a thing back in like 84, 85. Maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't have access to that. And we didn't have money. So like someone's yard, you saw the hose, you parked your bikes, and all of us were like,
It's a thing.
I feel like maybe everybody was just too spaced out, like anywhere I ever but we also didn't have roaming gangs of children, so that was also
Mm,
probably different.
I think it
But
was something that died with millennials, depending on
yes.
where
yeah,
you grew up
where you
and like
grew up for
what
sure.
part of the millennial demo. Like the older millennial you get and the more suburban your upbringing was, the more likely you were as a roving gang of kids.
yeah,
Mhm.
pretty much. Pretty much, yeah. I know. I know. We do always bring up the water hose. When was the last time any of us drank out of a water hose?
I mean, mine was today, but I have a garden.
I feel like I've done that at Chase's house, like, within the last year for sure. So Chase's water hose is getting a lot of visitation.
Guys,
A lot
it's a
of
great
action.
hose.
A lot of action on that hose.
I'm gonna go put like a Brita filter on your hose and then you can keep
Ooh,
drinking out of
wait a
it.
second. Wait a second. That is a great idea. A
That
British.
is a great
Yeah.
that's a thing. I think I've seen that at REI. Like, it's a thing you can screw onto a hose and I
Yeah, it's
I
like a
think
life straw or something. I don't know. I'm gonna go. Yeah,
That,
I'm not a
Listen,
prepper, I promise.
that's brilliant though. I like it.
brilliant.
what do you think Gen X's view of millennials are?
And you can be mean.
You could be mean. We're used to it. People
Yeah.
make fun of us all the time.
Okay, but Chase, I feel like even that was victimizing. Like, it's okay. We can take our shit
Yeah.
too.
Right? See, that's something
See,
Gen X would never say. We're not going to give you permission, and if you say something, we're fighting on spot, right? So like, you guys are much more polite, much more into your feelings. It was the feelings, I think, that caught a lot of us, especially in the workplace, and me as a Gen X manager of millennials. All the feels. I remember leading a recruiting team, a talent team. This is about 10 years ago. And the person was a millennial, and it was 10 o'clock every Monday morning. She would corner me to have a chat about her career, and then it inevitably left like tears. And I would sit there for 30 minutes and then just be like, hey, so really appreciate the catch up. Let's talk more about it in our one-on-one. So I'm still gonna give her more time, and I had a whole like this was a multi-thousands person company. I'll say that to try not lead anybody. And my team was in the double digits, and we were hiring hundreds of people a month, and like busy. Got time for the tears and the feels and like what you think you are owed, and like your promotion and this and that. And I'm like, it's not even promotion time. Why are we talking about this? Like, and it was no agenda. So if you really want to talk about your promotion, like this is Gen X, send me an agenda, send me like how I'm going to be spending my time. But I felt like millennials came in and was like, you're going to respect my feelings whenever I wanted to display my feelings. And that's, oh my God. Yeah, that was probably the most annoying thing about y'all. Also,
Everyone I know just cried in the WeWork phone booth.
that's why they put them there. They're they're millennial crying booths.
They are.
all millennial crying booths. Oh my God. Yeah, because my boomer slash silent generation mother was like, don't ever show emotion at work.
Yeah.
Because
See,
silent generation, they went through wars, right? So emotion, non-existent. Saying I love you, hugs, get out of here. You're kidding me. So we were like raised by some hardcore people, like went through the depression and all these kinds of things. And they're like, no. So when we encounter you with all your feelings, it's just been much. It's been a lot.
This is a really interesting thing for me though, because as someone who's on the older side of millennials, I kind of went into the workforce also with this expectation of like, you must keep a professional veneer at all times. And then it was only when I started having younger millennial direct
Mhm.
reports who would come in with all their
Oh, big
all
feelings.
their ish,
Big
all their
feelings.
ish. Yes. Too much ish. And I was like, I am so glad you feel like you can be your whole self. Like that's the phrasing now, and that you can be authentic with me because I
Mhm.
don't ever want to be the like
Right.
unnecessary villain in the situation, nor do I want to like perpetuate trauma
Right.
unnecessarily. But also,
You need that
Mhm.
your
report.
ish is not paying anything, like is not taking anything. And we have a client we have to go
We have,
talk
yeah,
to.
kinda gotta get ready.
Exactly. But to a point you made a lot earlier, Rachel, I feel like some of the encroachment of the personal self onto the workplace is sort of this like pendulum swing after the workplace took over a lot of our personal lives after the Blackberries and all
No,
of the boundaries
that's
and all of
true.
that. It's like I have to be a person sometime. And if I'm
That's
on the
Mhm.
clock 12 hours a day,
I
I'm going to
think
have to bring my feelings to
you're right.
work.
I think the two, right? So I was raised by a mother who like didn't have to deal with after work anything. She left things at the office. They would have to see her the next day. Like that was right. And sort of in my time, and then it changed. So you're right. If I'm gonna be there, I remember calling my mom from Yelp. This is 2008. So pre-IPO Yelp, crazy startup, everything you can imagine from that. What was that movie? The Facebook movie?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the
Social
social
network.
network. Yeah.
Also
Yeah.
network, it was very much like that, just, wild things going on all the time. But I remember calling my mom from my landline desk, and I said, it was like 7 o'clock at night or whatever. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'm so lucky they give us dinner here and breakfast and lunch. And my mom was like, that's because they want you there, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, I've been tricked. I've been hoodwinked. I've been bamboozled. Like, I didn't even think of it that way. But yeah, you're right. And if I'm gonna be there 12 hours a day, you're gonna see some big feelings at some point. I get
Hmm.
it. I do get that.
So I want to wrap with one question about one platform that I feel like unites us all, at least for the
Ooh.
kind of jobs that
I'm
we have
scared.
had.
Hmm.
I want to know
Uh,
everyone's thoughts, but also their first experience with Slack on their phone after work.
Uh, mm-mm. Let me get
Speaking of bringing your full self to work,
no,
right?
no.
So I had Slack starting in, I mean, I was Slack certified for like the 2 whole seconds they had that platform. I've been on Slack for so unbelievably long. I'm the child of workaholics. Like I'm used to this 24-hour a day schedule.
Oh
But not everybody is,
no,
right? So like yeah. So Rachel, when did you get a hold of Slack?
I did not. I still have it.
You still
Hell
have it on your
My
yeah.
phone?
whole
Hell
entire
yeah.
Hell
my
yeah.
I
That's
whole
Gen
respect
X.
entire
this so
time
much.
at that last place that y'all know about, it was not on my phone. Here's kind of where I draw the line. It seems to me that there has been an evolution in like the cell phone, workplace cell phone, right? I told you about the Pete's giving me a phone, which I
Yeah.
lost. And then every other place, same thing. You were given a phone. Great, because that's easier to separate. Okay, I'm going to leave my work phone at home or I'm going to leave it someplace. Now, these companies been cheaping up and cheating and being like, use your personal cell phone for work. Nah, that's where I draw the line. You want access to me, you're going to have to give me a whole new phone. And so I can like leave it someplace. So there's no like, I'm not logging in with my personal credentials into you. I'm not. I just don't want any of your things. And I think the first week at Google, they take you through like security and they tell you about kind of some of the stuff they're building that they can talk about. But they let you know like you're under surveillance 100% of the time on your laptops here, on the phones we give you, and if you log into anything on your personal, on your personal phone, we can get in there too. Like they had me scared. By the end of the first week, all of us had tape over everything. We were like total, and that I carry that forward. Like I'm not going to. And so since I didn't get a work phone, so to speak, I never added Slack onto my personal phone. So I won't
That's
do it.
so smart.
I have so much respect for that. I mean, I would
We felt
uninstall
so
Slack when I would go on
wistful.
vacation because otherwise I didn't know how to get the
Yeah.
space. And I have to sit with my therapist every time I get a new job and figure out which sound effect from Slack I'm going to assign to the messages because I already have PTSD reactions from
Yep.
the previous jobs.
Mhm.
Slack needs to come up with more sound effects. They're running out of
Please.
ones. I need more.
Please.
Yeah.
But anyway, not to pull away focus from what you were saying, Rachel, I think it's so smart to have those boundaries. And I feel like one thing that I know characterizes a lot of older millennials is that we came into the workforce during the financial crisis. And that gave a lot of us this sense that we had to be grateful for any job that we had.
Oh, I think
Yes.
that
And that is where a lot of the encroachment of
Hmm.
like work-life
yeah,
values and we are always
oh,
accessible came from.
so true. So true. I think that's happening to this generation now. I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
these are entering a similar, different but similar situation.
I wanted to end with I know we said wrapping up, but can you just say something nice about millennials? We really need the validation.
Have I not said anything nice? Okay, here's what I appreciate about the millennials, and I'll even say something about Gen Z that I think is great.
Excellent.
Incredible.
Because I know the audience is more than just millennials. I think what I appreciate about millennials is that you all truly believed that you could be and do anything you fucking wanted to be.
Ow. Yeah.
Ow, because the answer is we can't.
I know, but you believed it, and that's a start.
It was so
though.
nice. It was such a nice thing to say, and also I felt that in my soul, and it hurt.
But it was refreshing. I want you all to hold on to that. The universe is bigger than your workplace. Know that. I think the universe has a special calling on each one of our lives and your lives. So yes, hold on to the belief. But it was definitely jarring for a Gen Xer to see in the workplace, what they think they could be the boss at some point. We never thought we could. Gen X was waiting for someone to tell us that we thought we could be the boss, right? So that was the difference. You guys came in okay, what's the ladder to being the CEO? Wait, what?
There's 7 millennials who are bosses, so it would be nice. Yeah, it would be super cool.
And then I think Gen Z. I think they have thrown the whole hierarchy out the fucking window.
Mm-hmm.
And that I respect. They watching them, they're you're a what? You're an administrator, you're a tenured professor, here's my list of demands.
No gods, no rules, just yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, and they're taking it even further. So, I respect you all, and I think it's to the betterment of the workplace and to all of us for us to find those great things we like about the other generations, to try and understand their context. Like you said, Katie, the fact that you all entered at a very difficult time, and the gratefulness is kind of pervasive gratitude. And because there's 4 generations in the workplace currently.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and one of them's never going to leave.
Is it the boomers? It's the boomers.
I'm pretty it's
the
pretty
boomers.
Sure. Just
Yeah.
never gonna leave.
And the oldest Gen Alpha is 14, which means that they are starting to get their
Ouch.
part-time jobs if anyone's working in high school, right?
Yeah.
So we have Gen Alpha entering
Yeah.
the workforce now.
So
Yeah.
I went to a bookstore this past weekend, and a Gen Z person, when I put the books down that I wanted to get on the counter, went, "Your vibes are immaculate," and I will feel that for the rest of my life. That's another episode of Once in a Generation. If you enjoy this episode or want to share your favorite communication quirk from a generation, let us know in the comments. Next week, we're talking about Millennial Halloween.
You can find us at onceinagenerationpod.com. Follow us at the social links in the description. And if you want to support the show, join us over on Patreon, where we have additional content for patrons, including boat facts, witchy weather reports, sweet treats, and so much more.
Thanks for unpacking the damage with us. We'll see you next week. And remember, don't end your text with a period unless you want everybody to think you're mad.